Welcome to a wealth of useless knowledge, where we dive into some fun and entertaining topics. You're sure to learn something new here, and maybe even have a laugh or two. Now let's get into today's video. Have you ever stopped to wonder where the phrases we use every day actually come from? From simple words like typo, down to entire phrases, also known as idioms, like going the whole 9 yards. We commonly use many of these expressions in everyday speech, but we never really stop to ponder their origins. Well, in this video, we're going to dive into the interesting and sometimes ridiculous stories behind 10 of the most popular phrases in the English language. So grab a snack and stay tuned. The idiom "paint the town red" has been used for centuries, even in the modern world. Heck, we've even got entire rap songs about it.
I don't care, I paint the town red. I don't care, I paint the town red.
This phrase is used to express the desire to go out with friends and have a wild night out, which typically involves getting drunk and getting into some mischief.
We gonna get into some things. Oh, you ain't out?
The emergence of this idiom most likely owes its origin to one legendary night of drunkenness that is said to have occurred back in the 1800s. According to History.com, back in 1837, a man widely known to have been a mischief maker known as Marquis of Waterford led a group of friends out on a night of drinking through the English town of Melton Mowbray. The wild bender was said to have ended in vandalism after Waterford and his crew reportedly knocked over flower pots, pulled knockers off of doors, and broke the windows off of some town's buildings. And to top it all off, they decided to quite literally paint a toll gate, the doors of several homes, and a swan statue with red paint. After Marquis and his clan finally came out of their drunken haze, they are said to have righted their wrongs and compensated the town for the damages. But the phrase "paint the town red" has remained as a shorthand way of saying to have a wild night out. On the flip side, the opposite of painting the town red is to mind your P's and Q's.
And we kindly request y'all mind your P's and Q's.
Many of us have heard this phrase since grade school, and it's long been used as a way to tell people to be on their best behavior or to mind their manners. But the origin of this phrase actually had nothing to do with manners at all. The widely held theory is that this saying originally referred to actual letters. That's right, you guys. Back in the day, apprentices were warned about not mixing up the letters P and Q, especially when they were both in lowercase, as they can look the same on a printing block. Every character on a printing block looks like it's facing backwards until printed, but once it's printed, they read the correct way. Since these two letters were commonly mixed up, causing errors, the saying "mind your P's and Q's" is thought to have been said to get people to slow down and take their time in an effort to improve printing accuracy and to reduce typos. Speaking of typos, we've all been there. You've carefully crafted that email or text and then hit send, only to realize you've made the dreaded typo.
It's a typo, don't you see? It's a typo! It's a typo!
Whether it's a misspelled word or a duplicated one, it's annoying to say the least. But did you know the word typo is actually a shortened version of the age-old word typographer? The word typographer has long been used to refer to a person who arranges text in print to create everything from newspaper articles to flyers. But in the 19th century, the shortened version of the word became a word used to refer to a typographical error. And not much has changed, as it's still the way that we use it today. Now, as annoying as typos are, most of the time, a small typo makes no difference, as long as what's being written can be understood by and large. There's one of those phrases again. By and large. We use this one commonly to mean overall, all things considered, or for the most part. But this saying actually originated from the nautical world. Back in the 16th century, the word large in sailor terminology meant that a ship was sailing with the wind at its back, aiding in carrying the ship forward. Whereas the term by meant the vessel was traveling into the wind, which was a much less favorable condition for sailing. However, when sailors were able to achieve a decent balance of traveling both by and large, overall they were sailing pretty well, all things considered. This terminology would eventually come ashore and has since become an idiom anchored in the English language that's used in a wide array of situations where, for the most part, things are going pretty okay. By and large, that is. So if things are going great by and large, then there's no need to give someone the cold shoulder, right?
I'm going to yoga.
Hi, that sounds like so much fun.
Oh, you should go with her, Gloria.
Oh, we should definitely do that sometime. I would love it. Bye.
You see how she gives me the cold shoulders?
Now this next phrase, the cold shoulder, may just sound odd, especially if English isn't your first language. You may be thinking, okay, like if your shoulder's cold, why don't you just grab a jacket or something? But for those who know and use the phrase, know all too well that that's not what it means. We use this phrase all the time to express how someone can be cold, unwelcoming, or reluctant to socialize, especially when angry. Although this phrase is commonly used today, according to historians, the first recorded use of the phrase dates way back into the early 1800s. It refers to an old custom of giving an unwelcome guest a cold piece of meat from the shoulder of mutton, pork, or beef, as opposed to a welcome guest who'd receive a warm serving. Now, I don't know about you guys, but unless a food is specifically designed to be served cold, it should be eaten at peak temperatures. I mean, if you don't burn off a few taste buds trying to take a bite, is it even fresh? Needless to say, no one wants cold food. Giving someone a cold shoulder of food back then was known to be a polite way to communicate, "You may leave now." Speaking of leaving, if you haven't left yet and are still here watching and enjoying the video, why not go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe? It's free and easy to do, plus it helps the channel out a lot too. Keeping fun content like this headed your way.
I appreciate you.
Now on the contrary, if you want your guests to feel welcome, instead of giving them the cold shoulder, you might instead pull out the red carpet. If you're hospitable, you'll go the whole 9 yards, making sure they have hot food and good conversation. And that, my friends, is where the next common phrase comes in. The whole 9 yards.
I was a volunteer fireman. I put out fires, I got kittens out of trees, the whole 9 yards.
Sweet.
When you go the whole 9 yards, you try your best and you put your all into something. But why are we going so far? And why 9 yards specifically, instead of 10 or 100? Well, if you've ever wondered where this phrase originated, this one is known to have come from wartime. During World War II, fighter pilots were equipped with approximately 9 yards of ammunition. When they ran out, it meant that they had tried their best at fighting off the target with all the resources they had available. If asked how hard they fought, they could quite literally be able to say that they gave it their all as they went the whole 9 yards. Now, going the whole 9 yards is quite the opposite of this next phrase. That is to rest on your laurels.
Despite the fact that you and your families are so rightfully proud, you too cannot rest on your laurels.
People who go the whole 9 yards are known to be noble and hardworking, whereas resting on your laurels is not. To rest on one's laurels is to kick your feet up and talk about that one time you won a competition back in the day, when back in the day was decades ago. Sure, it was great that you won, but what have you done since then? In modern society, especially with the rise of hustle culture, this phrase has a negative connotation. But what the heck is a laurel anyways? And how did the phrase make its way into the English lexicon? The idea of resting on your laurels dates back to ancient Greece. In Hellenic times, laurel leaves were closely tied to Apollo, better known as the Greek god of music, prophecy, and poetry. Apollo was usually depicted with a crown of laurel leaves, and the plant would eventually become a symbol of status and achievement. Because of the plant becoming associated with prestige, laurel wreaths became the perfect medal of sorts to be bestowed upon victorious athletes at the ancient Pythian Games. The Romans would later adopt the practice and presented wreaths to generals who won important battles. After achieving many laurels in the past, it could become easy to bask in the glory of past achievements, and thus the phrase resting on your laurels was born. So instead of resting on your laurels, if there's something you've been wanting to achieve, whether it's going back to school or running a marathon, maybe it's high time you stop procrastinating, bite the bullet, and just get started. You're sitting on the couch procrastinating anyway.
You're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV, and your life is passing you by. You keep procrastinating over and over. Well, maybe I'll go to school next year, maybe next semester. No, do it right now.
All my millennials, let me know down in the comments if that commercial still lives in your head rent-free too. The phrase to bite the bullet is used figuratively to mean to take action on something that's difficult or unpleasant, mainly those things you've been procrastinating on.
I have been here for hours trying to replicate her recipe, and nothing has even come close. Orson, what am I gonna do?
You might have to bite the bullet and ask her for her recipe.
What?
Although in modern times it doesn't literally mean to bite down on a bullet, back in the olden days, that's exactly what it meant. During wartime, anesthesia was scarce and oftentimes not available at all. As a result, soldiers wounded in combat would be asked by doctors to bite down on a literal bullet to distract from the pain while they were being rendered aid. After biting the figurative bullet and doing the difficult thing you've been procrastinating on, you may finally feel that sense of accomplishment you've been hoping for and can finally take a break and let your hair down. The phrase letting your hair down has long been used to express the notion of being relaxed or at ease. That being said, the origin of this phrase is quite literal, as it's thought to have originated from the practice of aristocratic women in medieval times. In public, the women typically only appeared in elegant hairdos that were usually fully or partially pulled up, and the only time they would let their hair down was when they came home and relaxed. And when letting your hair down and relaxing, you surely don't want anyone coming in and ruining your mood, which is where the next and the last phrase on this list comes in.
I don't like that guy.
What? You like everybody.
Not Jay. Guy rubs me the wrong way.
Point is, you rub people the wrong way.
The phrase to rub someone the wrong way has long been used to refer to someone not vibing well with another person, or just flat out being annoyed by them. The most common theory about where this phrase originated has to do with our feline friends. As many people know, cats can be very finicky, especially when their fur is rubbed in the wrong direction. It's widely known that petting a cat in the wrong direction is one of the fastest ways to annoy them, which makes the origin of this phrase make a whole lot of sense. In conclusion, it's best to mind your P's and Q's and don't be out here painting the town red. Know that if you rub people the wrong way, they just might give you the cold shoulder. Don't rest on your laurels, but instead bite the bullet and go the whole 9 yards. Then afterward, you can let your hair down and relax. Try to proofread your work to avoid typos as best as you can, but hey, if you make a few errors here and there, as long as what you're saying can still be understood, then by and large you're doing okay. Now, it's interesting to discover the origins of some common everyday phrases that we use all the time, and this is by no means an exhaustive list either, as there are many, many more commonly used expressions like this that have fascinating and sometimes surprising histories that go back centuries. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, comment a book emoji down below and I'll make more like it. If you love these nerdy, wordy types of videos, check out my A Bit Wordy playlist, where I dive into tons of interesting quirks in the English language that you never knew. I'll have it linked for you in the pinned comment and in the iCards. If you found this video educational or entertaining, it would be
delightful, really delightful.
If you would like, share, and hit that subscribe button for more content.
Don't worry, I'll wait.
As always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep learning.